Phoebe, who's going to win, who's going to lose?
I think it's going to be a close call if you look at the polls at the moment. I mean, they're both on around 28%. And you've got a choice between Len Brown, who's done some media flubbers, and John Banks' transformation of himself into somebody that cares about homeless and feeds stray cats in the middle of the night.
Yes.
So it's going to be close between those two candidates. No one else even really registers.
Were the left so fearful of a Banks win that they couldn't risk splitting the vote once Len threw his hat in, and that's why we've got this yawn fest?
I think they were the only two candidates with a public profile, apart from Andrew Williams, of course, who's Mayor of the North Shore, who's been doing things like, sending text messages at 3:30 in the morning and urinating on buildings. So, I think...
A lost opportunity by the left?
I think a lost opportunity by everyone. I mean, really for the last 10 years, hardly anybody has voted.
Yes, that's right. Claudette, who's going to win, who's going to lose?
Well, we're going to have a centre-right leadership in Auckland because we need to be pragmatic. Now is not a time for the left to promise things like free this and free that. We are in a recession. We will not come out of this recession anytime soon. We need a centre-right council. Citizens and ratepayers have kept the rates down in the city. Every other council is in debt. We will inherit that as a super city.
Time to chop up the assets and sell them off to your rich mates?
Well, now is a time to look at the assets to see whether or not we can generate revenue for that, for the city.
Or chop them up and sell them off?
What we need to do is to ensure that we will get good revenue return for the city and for the communities within that city as well too.
Okay, thank you, Claudette. Thank you, Phoebe. What's your final word for the show?
Final word has to be the pineapple lumps.
Yes.
The $2.90 pineapple lumps. Come on, more than 2 years in prison is just ridiculous. There needs to be an inquiry into this. We cannot be treating our youth like this. That we would even pay for them to go to prison for that amount of time. And let's face it, prison quite often functions to give people criminal connections.
Yep.
This is appalling.
Claudette, your final word?
I absolutely agree. But also, going back to the super city, this is history in the making. It's important that we get this right. Everybody who can vote, who has registered to vote, need to go out. We need to vote in a council that is pragmatic, that is able to use the resources that we have wisely.
Yep.
Now is not a time to spend and to promise.
My final word, ladies and gentlemen, whatever the reason why the uninsured in Christchurch chose to be uninsured should not matter. They have found themselves in this situation, and the question for the rest of us as citizens is what we should do to help. And that question is asked in the shadow of the $1.6 billion Mr. Magoo bailout. What was good for South Canterbury finance is good for the uninsured. To turn our backs on fellow New Zealanders who will be the poorest in this disaster and less able to resource the shock based on some mythical sense of the self-sufficient, responsible, moral hazard self is as deluded as Alan Hubbard's fanatical followers who have racked their own self-esteem up in his uncomplicated, modest ways. The second largest city in our country has been badly hurt. If we could look after the politically connected investors of South Canterbury finance, we can look after the 10,000 uninsured Christchurch quake survivors. On next week's Citizen A, bloggers Tim Selwyn and Cameron Slater. If you like tonight's show, please check out our Citizen A Facebook site. Thanks for watching, whānau. Good night, Aotearoa.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.